Hello. How many of you have been in a large situation, such as an auditorium or some large speaking situation, where one speaker has been telling a story or a joke to a large audience and has tried to make it his own, has tried to make it uh, a, a relevant story to relate to the rest of the audience, and it's just not working? Can you tell if he's making it trying to force it on the audience, or if it's really his story and it's funny because it's his story, or do you think he's making it up? There are times in my own job, which is not really a job that lends itself to many audience settings, but there are at least once a year we have a meeting with my job where we might have that kind of speaker. And I can tell right away if a speaker is telling a story from the heart and from his experience, or if he's just read something somewhere and he's kind of making it his own story. Right now, you can tell if I am telling a story from somebody else's script or if it's from my own script, meaning from my life. Okay, I think we've all been in that situation. Um, I am obviously reading off of notes, as most of us do when we read a speech. Um, I am going to talk to you today about humor because humor is important to me. Humor should be important to everyone who, well, it should be important to everyone, basically, because without humor and without laughter in our lives would be really dreadful. We need to laugh every single day. I mean, our mouths have to smile. We have to be creative. We have to be joyful. Even when things go terribly wrong in our lives, which everyone has something go terribly wrong in their life all the time. I mean, we can't avoid that. I have something go terribly wrong very recently in my life. It was a terrible time, and I got through it, and people who I love and who love me get me through it. And part of that process is through laughter, through love, and through humor. And part of that also is what I'm going to talk to you about today is getting humor and laughter in our lives. And one of the ways we do that is to get ourselves around people who make us laugh and get ourselves in a culture that presents humor in our lives. Now, we're not going to do that by staying by ourselves and staying around people who do not present us with positive culture. Most of us at this point, you out there, a lot of you are in a time in your life where you have family and you have hobbies and different things in your life and jobs, and you all probably have people who make you happy and who keep you laughing and smiling. I see it in your speeches, and I can tell through just what you've talked about in your lives that there are things that make you smile and laugh, and that's great. And that's what all of us need. And there are backgrounds to that, and there are benefits to smiling and to laughter, health benefits to that. I would not be the young person that I am today were it not for my healthy benefit of laughter and humor. I've got to know that. I've got to believe that because it comes from my family. My dad was like that. He had a goofy sense of humor that all my siblings just cringe about when we think about it. Even my children laugh about my dad's sense of humor. And as much as I like to tease about it, I've developed pretty much the same Dave Moiser sense of humor 2.0. And my kids cringe about it too because they have pretty much picked up on it too, 3.0. So it on it goes, on and on it goes. So today I want to talk to you about that. There are different kinds of humor, And there are healthy kinds and there are unhealthy kinds. Now, the healthy kinds of humor are the kinds that keep us involved today in a setting like this, where we get ourselves smiling like this. We maybe tell a joke or we tell a story that makes us smile, but if we're telling jokes that kind of make poke fun at each other, that's not really what I'm here to talk to you about today, because I have things happen in my life. Really, family did that. My family did that. My kids do that sometimes to each other, and we kind of remind each other that that's not the kind of humor that we are really wanting to encourage. That's playful joking that kind of goes too far sometimes, and that's not what we want. We want something that makes our hearts light and makes our hearts happy. So humor goes that way for us. That's what we want in humor. So we, I listen to humor. I listen to comedy more than I listen to music right now. Comedy is kind of my jam right now. If I'm at work and I've got nobody around, I put on the headphones and I'm listening to iHeartRadio comedy or something like that. And I've got my favorite comedians that I listen to, and it just keeps me motivated. Um, and I could listen to the same guys all day long and the same routines. And as long as it keeps me laughing and smiling, I'm a happy man. And that's the way it is. Uh, Growing up watching comedy, everybody has their generation of comedy, TV. And I grew up with my parents watching the classics, the Carol Burnett show and Johnny Carson. And then there were the 60s and 70s sitcoms that, the Gilligan's Island and the different ones like that, Andy Griffith. And I still watch them today, on the other stations. And they're great. And I love them. And then there are the later ones, the Seinfeld and the ones that I still watch on loop, which are The Office. Everybody knows that I watch The Office and could recite it by heart. So there are classic comedy shows that I still watch because I am a comedy nut. Um, there are classic comedians and sources of comedy that go clear back, and most of them are political. And I think everyone here knows that most comedy is political. You open up any kind of comedy show or something that's being streamed, and that comedian is talking about the president or something political right now, and that is the history of comedy. So if you go back and you look at like Mark Twain or Roy Rogers or something like that, they traveled the countryside talking about the State of the Union, and they're talking about the president and the just basic. It's kind of a general, like general, you know, uh, poking fun at the political agenda. And at that time, it was nothing like it is now, but they were really, for their time, they were edgy. And then we have like Hal Holbrook, who was portraying Mark Twain later on. He was on the educational channel doing that. I watched that as a kid. And then also James Whitmore portrayed Roy Rogers doing the same thing. Roy Rogers traveled the country with his guitar and did storytelling and all that, and did the same satire. And that's what it was satire. They were able to do that and get away with it and poke fun at the president and the whole political organization and get away with it because it was satire. Now, it was nothing like it is today because people really get away with a lot today, but still, it was a lot. And another thing, the comedy and humor is so uh, embraced, and that has been true since the First World War. I mean, look at the comedians going abroad and playing at the USO shows. Bob Hope, he started that whole movement with the USO programs overseas with his comedy troops and entertaining the troops over there, and that was so light, that was so good for morale for the troops, and that still goes on even today, whether it's peacetime or in in lands that are still uh, seeing action. They are still touring and entertaining the troops, and that shows another health benefit to comedy, and that shows that it's a stress reliever, and has a good benefit. Laughter and humor have good health benefits. Um, the Huffington Post has proven that with all of their research of about their boosting the immune system and relieving stress and relieving pain. Actually, they have studies that they've done that shows that they are able to um, help people with that. It's just a relaxing defense mechanism, and it's something that everyone should find themselves a little time each day just to relax and laugh. My recent shift from music to comedy has helped create a new and more positive culture in my life. Um, I've been able to. People can tell that in me. Uh, I I listen to more comedy, and it makes me. Um, I don't know. It gives me a protective suit of armor. Is what I like to think. When other negative things come up in my life, and they do, I like to think that it gives me a more positive outlook on life, um, and protects me against character threats. And there are character threats that we all have. There are things, outer threats in our lives that um, that we need to protect ourselves against. So when this happens, we need laughter in our lives. We need something to make us smile, and that's something that's very important in our lives. So remember that humor has been around for a long time, longer than even what I've cited today. People have been making each other laugh forever, and it's part of our communication. We need to continue that culture for our families, for each other. And if you have a way of creating that culture in your work life, in your daily life, and you have a way of incorporating it into your speeches, into your work communications, that's perfect. And I try to make it part of my daily routine, and I think my work uh, coworkers would say that I do. I'm kind of quieter now at my newer job site than I was at my older job site, just because there's more people to know than there used to be, and I'm not as close to these people. But I am trying, and the people that do know me know that I'm kind of a lighthearted guy. Sorry if I don't show that here. It's a little hard for me to be lighthearted on the video screen. But just remember that um, our job is to use humor wisely, to gauge it. Um, Not all humor is for all people. So when you use it wisely. If you're going to use your humor for you, remember that it's not always for the same for other people. So be be careful how you use humor. Um, there are different types of humor, and a lot of it's very generic. And be careful not to use crass humor. And I try not to ever use crass humor around other people especially if I don't know them. I try to be very politically correct. So thank you for listening today. I appreciate any input that you might have, and good luck with all of your speeches, and I'll see you soon.